Years of struggle. Dozens of lives lost. One family's obsession refused to surrender. Beneath the East River, men entered darkness no human had survived before. Workers descended into pressurized chambers, breathing air heavier than nature intended. In that crushing silence, a dream began to take shape. John Roebling envisioned a bridge stronger than anything the world had seen. He designed it far beyond necessity, preparing for forces others feared. Before the first stone was laid, tragedy struck the visionary. Yet the dream did not die with him. At a shipyard near the river, craftsmen built a massive wooden caisson, a bottomless chamber meant to conquer the riverbed itself. Iron and timber sealed tightly against fire and flood. The caisson floated into position with delicate precision. Granite towers began rising above, forcing the chamber downward. Inside, sandhogs carved through mud in suffocating heat. Air pressure crushed their lungs as they dug deeper. Every stone above pushed them further into darkness below. Timber cracked. Repairs followed. Reinforcements were added. The structure grew stronger with each challenge. Finally, tools struck solid foundation. Concrete transformed wood into permanent strength. On that base, the Brooklyn Tower climbed toward the sky. Across the river, a second caisson prepared for an even deeper descent. Lessons learned shaped every improvement. This chamber sank farther than any before it. Air compressed beyond comfort, beyond safety. Washington Roebling personally supervised the descent. Hours underground slowly destroyed his health. At last, bedrock was reached beneath Manhattan. Concrete sealed the deepest underwater foundation ever built. Twin Gothic towers rose from each shore. Stone locked together in perfect balance. The western skyline had never seen such height. The towers stood ready for the next impossible task. Cables would soon bind the two cities together. A single rope first crossed the river. From that thread, mighty cables would be born. Roebling's wire spinning method changed engineering forever. Individual steel wires traveled back and forth across the span. Each precisely placed, each carefully tested. Steel from Sheffield met exacting strength standards. Thousands of wires combined into enormous cables. Wrapping wire sealed them against weather and time. Vertical suspenders and diagonal stays formed a web of support. Deep steel trusses added stiffness never achieved before. From both sides, the deck stretched toward midair. Piece by piece, balance was calculated perfectly. At the center, the two halves finally met. The gap closed above the restless river. An elevated promenade offered a park in the sky. Gas lamps illuminated the crossing at night. Protective paint guarded steel from corrosive air. Toll booths stood ready to repay the enormous cost. Years of labor neared their climax. Emily Roebling made the first crossing. She carried her husband's vision across the span. The opening day united two great cities. Leaders and citizens gathered in celebration. The president himself walked into history. As night fell, crowds flooded the bridge. Fireworks crowned the triumph in color and light. By morning, Brooklyn and Manhattan were forever connected. From his window, Washington Roebling watched in silence. His calculations had reshaped a nation. The bridge carried more than traffic. It carried ambition, resilience, and belief. Every suspension bridge that followed borrowed its lessons. Generations maintained it without rebuilding its soul. Stone and steel endured beyond their creators. Even original wires outlasted modern replacements. Expansion and contraction were accounted for in design. Forces traveled through redundant paths of safety. Roebling created a structure meant to endure centuries. A father dreamed. A son suffered. A wife completed. At night, the bridge becomes pure geometry in light. Sunrise after sunrise greets its towers. Each crossing tells two stories. The city that was, and the city that became. From river depths to skyward stone. From tragedy to triumph. The impossible made eternal.